ahead and admit. Looks like we've got about 28 people in the lobby. So are you ready?
All right, welcome back. We've concluded our executive session. We are now officially opening the meeting for the February 3rd, 2026 Oregon Criminal Justice Commission meeting. We will start with roll call. Jenny?
Commissioner Beach?
Present.
Commissioner Freeman?
I'm here today.
Commissioner Herndon?
I am here.
Commissioner Harris?
Present.
Commissioner Lehman?
Present.
Commissioner McPherson?
Present.
Commissioner Norton? Commissioner Perosa?
Present.
Commissioner Lewis? Commissioner Przonski? And Chair Solomon.
Here. All right. I believe we have a few individuals signed up for public comment.
We do. Let me pull up my list quickly. So as of early this afternoon, just so everyone knows, I did have 4 requests. I don't know if any have popped up since then, but I'm going to go ahead and call your name in the order I received them. So our first one today is Sophia Solano from Conflict Artistry.
Thank you. Hello. Can you hear me? Good afternoon. Esteemed members of the Criminal Justice Commission, a special hello to Commissioner Norton if she's here, who I had the pleasure of meeting in person last month at the Yachats Peace Hike. My name is Sophia Solano, and I am a restorative justice practitioner with more than a decade of experience working in diversion programs and community coalitions. In 2021, while completing my master's degree at the University of Oregon School of Law, I founded Conflict Artistry, LLC. As the Restorative Justice Grant Program was being developed, I invited a circle of my friends and colleagues into my company to help develop and implement a proposal. This was an unprecedented opportunity to bring individual practitioners together towards a common goal, diverting cases away from the criminal legal system at the earliest stage possible, centering the interests and needs of those who had been impacted. For me, it was also an opportunity to create something rare, a flat or horizontal organization structure governed by consent-based decision-making, where power could be evenly distributed among collaborators. I want to acknowledge that this choice has contributed to the confusion within Conflict Artistry and our communications with the CJC. I have learned a difficult lesson, that sharing power with people who do not share your values can be devastating and dysfunctional. I want to be clear that I am not here to attempt to influence the decision-making of this committee today. I'm here to practice honesty and accountability, which are core tenets of restorative justice. I'm here to assure the Criminal Justice Commission that I have made every possible attempt to adhere to the obligations of our contract, including by only authorizing payments that are allowable expenses. Since July of last year, I have been unlawfully excluded from program and company decisions, including reporting processes. I have had to make public records requests to access information that I am potentially liable for. I was disappointed to learn last week that the recently submitted closeout report contains factual and financial errors, which, to my knowledge, my colleagues have failed to address or reconcile. I am the only member of Conflict Artistry that has maintained consistent, transparent, and truthful communication with the CJC. I have offered more than a dozen potential pathways to resolve this dispute to my colleagues directly and through their attorney. They've ignored these offers, and instead, they have misled the CJC, misrepresented the nature of our conflict through baseless accusations, and even attempted to usurp Conflict Artistry's grant application and redirect it towards their own new entity. This is a clear breach of their fiduciary duties and an infringement upon Conflict Artistry's trademark. Unfortunately, I have come to believe that I am the only member of Conflict Artistry that can ensure the administrative obligations of this contract and future contracts can be met. Ultimately, the most important thing for me to convey today is that I sincerely hope this situation will not reflect negatively on the crucial investments being made by the Criminal Justice Commission and the Restorative Justice Grant Program. I urge the CJC to address the conflicts of interest within the Grant Advisory Committee so that these awards can be determined and distributed equitably. A very important piece of written testimony was submitted to the CJC in September by Scott Smith that clearly and thoroughly highlights the implications and impacts of these conflicts of interest. Thank you for your time and consideration today and for all the important investments this committee sustains that serve Oregon residents and our communities.
Thank you, Ms. Lano. What do we have
Up
next?
Up next, we have Simon Fulford from Parrot Creek.
Chair Solomon, members of the Criminal Justice Commission, thank you for letting me submit public comment to you today. For the record, my name is Simon Fulford. I am the president of the Restorative Justice Coalition of Oregon, a member of the CJC's Restorative Justice Grant Program, Grant Advisory Committee, and in my day job, yes, I am the executive director of Parrot Creek Child and Family Services. Wearing all three of these hats, I am a supporter of and advocate for the continued growth and application of restorative justice programs in our communities, a model that has been proven time and time again to better meet the needs of victims of crime, those responsible for causing harm, and our communities than many of the many formal justice system approaches. 4 years ago, as mentioned by Sophia Solano, through the CJC's Restorative Justice Grant Program, one of the most innovative approaches to delivering RJ was developed by Conflict Artistry. It's my understanding now led by Jess Klein, Wemi Ayanubi, and Laura Diamond. Conflict Artistry is at the forefront of RJ practice in Oregon, developing community-initiated and led responses to harm and accountability. Conflict Artistry has developed a proven model that has inspired others to follow and sets Oregon as a true leader in RJ practice in this country. Conflict Artistry has had internal, financial, and administrative challenges, and they have been open and transparent with the CJC since these started. I do not know the full details, and it is not my place to do so. However, I strongly encourage the CJC to partner with Conflict Artistry in resolving these contractual challenges in a way that preserves the RJ programs that they have already developed with RJGP funds, and allow them to continue serving some of our community's most vulnerable victims. It would be a huge loss to the state of Oregon and the delivery of justice in general should the work that Jess, Wemi, and Laura are now leading comes to an end. I urge you to find a solution that continues their work while ensuring the proper use and allocation of taxpayer funds. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon. Jenny?
Up next, we have Jessica Klein from Conflict Artistry.
Thank you so much. My name is Jessica Klein, and I'm the Sexual Violence Program Coordinator with Conflict Artistry. I believe that programs such as Conflict Artistry, whose purpose and mission is to support survivors in receiving healing-centered services without reporting to law enforcement, are crucial to this movement. Statistics show that sexual assault is the most common yet underreported violent crime in our country, with more than 1 in 5 women and 1 in 31 men having experienced completed or attempted rape in their lifetimes. Less than 1 in 3 survivors report the assault to law enforcement, and this is for many reasons, including stigma, the survivor not believing that their assault was violent enough, or fear of being blamed or not believed. Also because they did not want the person who assaulted them to get in trouble. Statistics show that more than 8 in 10 sexual assaults are perpetrated by someone known to the survivor. So while we often think of a stranger in a dark alley when we think about sexual assault, the reality is that it is our neighbors, our brothers, our friends, and our dating partners who are the ones committing these offenses. This means that the majority of survivors of sexual violence are left isolated with little to no opportunity for justice, and that perpetrators of sexual harm are not held accountable in any way. Research shows that over half of survivors who report their assault to law enforcement rate their experience with the system as harmful, unsatisfactory, unfair, and in some cases more harmful than the assault itself. I came on staff full-time at Conflict Artistry in June 2024, both as a survivor of sexual violence who went through a restorative justice dialogue, and also as a professional with nearly a decade of experience working in the field of domestic and sexual violence advocacy. In my first few months of outreach, I received over 30 self-referrals from survivors interested in a restorative process. But because of internal conflict over the nuances of what is considered restorative justice, the program slightly faltered. After receiving guidance from the CJC and the individual at the center of the conflict no longer working with us, our referral process has been refined and our case numbers increased significantly. Our core team underwent intensive training with Circles of Peace, an evidence-based restorative justice program born out of New York University's Center on Violence and Recovery. We've engaged various community partners who've since referred not only survivors of sexual harm, but those who have perpetrated it and are interested in self-reflection, transformation, and unlearning the harmful narratives that we all consistently receive regarding the patriarchy and unhealthy masculinity. We've created plans and supports around creating a surrogacy program, both for survivors and people responsible for intimate partner harm, in order to meet the ongoing needs that our clients are experiencing. Due to the uncertainty of our funding, we've had to put 3 sexual violence cases on hold in which both the survivor and person responsible want to have a dialogue. We've also paused our outreach and community building processes so as not to cause more harm to survivors in the interim. We're very grateful for the 3 years of funding, support, and investment that we've received from the CJC, and we humbly request that this investment and alternative reparations be wholly considered in your deliberations of whether or not to continue funding our program. We also want to restate that this is a relatively new yet highly successful conflict artistry program. In addition to our other programs that are also still receiving referrals, our intimate partner harm program is still in its infancy. While we did not oppose the most recent set of qualifications set forth by the CJC in considering how much funding each program should receive, selecting programs based on the number of cases opened and the swiftness in which cases were concluded is not trauma-informed or culturally responsive in regard to sexual violence work. These cases do take longer for a number of reasons that I don't have time to lay out. But now that we've spent some time refining our process through these pilot sexual harm cases, we feel confident that we're equipped to take on a full caseload with the additional funding. We hope that you give our program a chance to serve the survivors in our community who are so hungry for these services, and a program that is operating outside of the confines of the legal system. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Jenny, do we have one more?
We have one more today, Tessa Yoder.
Hi, y'all. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sweet. Hi, my name is Tessa Yoder. I've worked as a consultant with Conflict Artistry since its inception. I also worked with many of the founding and current leaders of Conflict Artistry in previous restorative justice work here in Eugene, Oregon. And while I'm not privy to the details of the inner conflict that the leadership team has experienced this past year, what I can speak to is the passion, dedication, and perseverance that I've witnessed from Conflict Artistry's current leaders, Wemi, Jess, and Laura. I've seen these 3 build and maintain close community relationships, both within and outside the world of restorative justice, create new programs, bring in practitioners with unique ideas and diverse perspectives, facilitate transformative conversations, and continue doing all this hard work, while also more recently navigating a continually escalating conflict within their organization. And while I know that there have been missteps this past year, Conflict Artistry continues to provide restorative justice mediation services in a way that I believe no other organization in Lane County does. This approach to conflict transformation outside of carceral systems and the legal system that's deeply rooted in community is a service that we need in this county and beyond. And I have confidence that this trio will forge a new path for this organization, learn from their past mistakes, and trust each other both personally and professionally. I urge you to award them their designated funds this year to allow them to continue their work and show you all the good that they can do. Thanks.
Okay, all right. Well, We will now take up the restorative justice grant topic to consider Conflict Artistry's current situation. We've received guidance from staff, and I'd like to take a moment to share a couple of thoughts and then open it up for discussion. I've reviewed all of the letters, the staff memo, and considered the public testimony we just heard. And first, I want to say this is a difficult decision because I think two things are true at the same time. Conflict Artistry provides restorative services that clearly matter in our community. And we've heard that very loudly and clearly. And we are public stewards we're stewards of public funds. And every grantee has an obligation to meet the financial controls and accountability that is set forth. And when funds can't be verified or used for ineligible purposes, we have a responsibility to act. And this isn't about the value of the work. It's about ensuring that we have the right safeguards in place so that the public dollars are protected. So I want to open this up for discussion, and I'd really welcome thoughts from the commission on next steps.
Chair Solomon, if I may.
Yeah.
I do have a presentation prepared
Okay,
just to go
great.
through some of the language if you'd like me to before, just as kind of a
Yeah.
overview and reminder, because I know you all have received quite a bit of materials. So is that okay? Just to kind of
Yes,
facilitate?
Yeah.
Perfect.
My apologies for not teeing you up.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure I could do that. Should be coming up, I think, soon. Also, I would like to apologize. I have a bit of a cough, so I'm going to try not to cough through the entire thing, just some of it. So if you all could see this, so give me a thumbs up, that would be great. Okay, perfect. Just for the record, good afternoon, Chair Solomon, Commissioners. I'm Rachel MacArthur, and I'm staff here at CJC. And today I'm going to just provide you all with some information in regards to Conflict Artistry. So just a little bit of background, and before I kind of get into this, I am going to be referring to a couple of documents. Commissioners, you did receive a packet that was rather large, and so the memo is one that I will be referring to, but there are a few others, and so if you need clarification on what I'm actually referring to, please stop me and I will be a little bit more clear. But all of this information is in the briefing that you did get from staff, and then I'll refer to a couple others later on. But so in September of 2022, CJC and Conflict Artistry entered into a grant agreement, and as a result, Conflict Artistry did receive Restorative Justice Grant Program funds. And over the course of 2025, CJC received 2 reported discrepancies related to the use of funds totaling approximately $25,000. And so specifically, and this is also reflected in the briefing that you all received, in July of 2025, 2 members of Conflict Artistry provided CJC with notice that $19,000 in grant funds were misused by a third member. And over 3 months later, in October of 2025, 2 members of Conflict Artistry provided CJC with notice that another $6,000 in grant funds were misused by the third member of Conflict Artistry. And so based on this information that we received, CJC concluded that Conflict Artistry had failed to perform its obligation to ensure that grant funds are used on eligible costs as required under Agreement Section 4A and is in default under Agreement Section 9A. And so when I refer to agreement, it's that grant agreement that's referred on the first bullet point. You all also got a copy of that as well for review. So if you need more detail, it is in that packet that you all received. So on November 13th of 2025, CJC provided written notice that Conflict Artistry had failed to perform, observe, or discharge its obligations under the agreement and therefore is in default. CJC provided Conflict Artistry with 30 days to cure the violations. Specifically, they were asked to provide information to CJC sufficient to demonstrate that the $25,000 in grant funds were in fact expended on eligible costs. CJC in that notice required a single response that speaks for Conflict Artistry as a single legal entity. And in November and December of 2025, CJC received 2 competing responses from Conflict Artistry. And so if the commissioners, if you refer to your briefing that you got, the action item or the what we're asking is for you all to review and determine whether Conflict Artistry has failed to cure its default and remedies that should be pursued under agreement section 10. So that is what we're providing this information for you all to do. The staff recommendation is that there's a finding of failure to cure default and the issuance of a notice of failure to cure. That is also a draft that was also provided to you all. So you do have that notice of failure to cure as an attachment as well. Substantially in the form as drafted to pursue the following remedies. Seek recovery of grant funds that were not spent on eligible costs and declare Conflict Artistry ineligible for Restorative Justice Grant Program funds for the 2025-2027 biennium. So this current biennium, pursuant to agreement section 10 and deny Conflict Artistry's application. And so at this point, Chair Solomon, I will turn it over to you. You all do have a staff recommendation for discussion, and I will be happy to answer any questions that I'm able to.
Great. So let's start there. We have a recommendation based on the materials we provided. It seems pretty clear that Conflict Artistry has failed to cure its default and provide appropriate remedies. Commissioner Freeman, I see you jumped up.
Just going to ask if you'd like a motion so we can have discussion after the motion, or would you like to discuss first?
Let's go ahead and discuss first, and then we can move to a motion. Thank you.
Chair Solomon, would you like me to continue sharing at this point, or do you want me to stop sharing so you can discuss and I can reshare again, or?
No, you can leave this up.
Okay.
I think it's fine.
Okay.
I can see hands. All right, commissioners, thoughts about staff recommendation?
So, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to start. So
yeah,
I appreciated your lead in before we had this last report. I did read all the materials, and it sounds like there is good work being done. However, making sure that public funds are spent in a way that can be accounted for, in my mind, has to be the top priority. And I feel bad for this position we're all in, but it seems like the staff recommendation moves us to a place where we can assure that the right controls are around the way the funding's being spent and recover anything that was done incorrectly.
Mm-hmm. Great. Commissioner Hardin.
Thank you. I appreciate all the work that staff has done. One of the things that stands out to me that the staff has done a lot to try to help the organization get back on the right track, and we haven't failed to get there. So that's my main concern is even with CJC staff helping this, we're still stuck in this quandary of how to recoup or recover these funds.
Thank you. Other thoughts? Commissioner McPherson.
Thank you, Chair. My thoughts are really about disappointment. What the services conflict artistry is providing the community and the state. I believe they're the only ones really providing the service they're providing. We are in desperate need of it, as are people who are harmed, and the people doing harm are in need of this service. And I find it extremely disappointing that it's clear, I believe it's clear, that there was misappropriation of funds that occurred. And that is putting the position of the community and people who really need these services, possibly not receiving them because of that. And I really wish there was an option to provide some more time to conflict artistry and CJC staff to try to determine what occurred, particularly with the $19,000, as this appears to be a dispute between three people, but it seems pretty clear on where the fault lies. And it's unclear to me why that hasn't been able to be disentangled up until this point. And maybe that's just not knowable, but in a state that is devoid of resources for diversion and options to people outside of the criminal legal system, it's beyond disappointing to potentially lose a restorative justice program of this nature when the state so desperately needs it. You know, we lack services, mental health services, we lack treatment services, we lack services for people outside of just arrest, charge, convict, incarcerate. And so, disappointment. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for so compassionately articulating, I think, what a lot of us are feeling. Commissioner Miller.
I agree with most of what Commissioner McPherson said. My heart breaks in particular for the people who seem like they're engaged with conflict artistry at the moment and the impact that this may have on those folks. I do just want to point out that this recommendation from staff is not a permanent bar on funding for conflict artistry. And so if there are a way to work through the dispute and some of the issues that are outstanding, perhaps there's an opportunity to revisit this very vital service in the future.
Thank you. Any other thoughts at this time? All right. I would entertain a motion then. Rachel, can we take these one at a time?
I'm sorry are you talking about the two
Yeah.
points?
Yeah.
So
Or do
the
you
way
want
that
them-
staff, sorry,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I
Go
keep
ahead.
interrupting you.
No,
The
go
way
ahead.
that staff has it is that it's one with the other. So not separating the two, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And so this language is sufficient in terms of a motion. It's both of those
Okay.
bullet points included. Yeah.
Got it. All right. Looks like we've got two hands up, Commissioner Freeman, then Commissioner Lehman.
I'm prepared to make a motion if you're ready, Mr. Chair.
I am.
Finding a failure to cure default of the issuance of notice of failure to cure substantially in the form as drafted to pursue the following remedies. I move to seek recovery of grant funds that were not spent on eligible cost. And I move to declare the conflict artistry ineligible for restorative justice grant program grant funds for the 2025-27 biennium pursuant to the agreement section 10 and deny conflict artistry's application.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
I second.
Mr.
This is,
Herndon.
Okay, great. So we have a motion made by Commissioner Freeman, seconded by Commissioner Harnden. You had your hand up, Commissioner Lehman?
that was the second. Sorry.
Oh, okay, great. Jenny, would you please take roll?
Sure. Commissioner Beach,
Yes.
Commissioner Freeman,
Yes.
Commissioner Harnden,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Lehman,
Yes.
Commissioner McPherson.
I'm a no with explanation, and my explanation is I'm a no because of part 2 of the motion. If there was resolved to the internal conflict with the management component of the LLC, I would not want them to be not able to provide the services in this biennium. That's why I'm a no. Thank you.
Commissioner Perosa
Yes.
and Chair Solomon.
Yes. Heartbreakingly. All right, that motion carries. I think this concludes this discussion. Do you have anything else, Rachel?
I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up on the agenda, looks like we're going to hear from Danielle about the JAG modification for Washington County.
Hi there. Just give me a minute. This is my first time in a meeting, and so I'm just dealing with the technology. So let me know if you can see the first page of the PowerPoint.
We can see your desktop. Nope, now we see us.
Let me try again.
Bingo.
How about now? Yay! It didn't take me too long. Thanks for your patience. Good afternoon, Chair Solomon and commissioners. For the record, my name is Danielle Topinski, and I'm the Federal Grants Manager for CJC. Thank you very much for your time today. I'm here to present an action item to the Commission on whether to approve an award from fiscal year 22 burn JAG funds in the amount of $185,646 to the Washington County Community Corrections to support enhanced community supervision and field contact standards for its probation and parole division. Please do note that the amount has been revised from the original request of $204,073, which was indicated in the briefing memo for this action item. First, I just wanted to give some important information on the funding source. CJC's Burn JAG 22 federal award is one of our earliest JAG formula grants that is still active. And like our JAG 21 award, it is due to end on September 30th of this year. Oregon's final JAG 22 state allocation was $2,264,047. Like our other JAG awards, generally 90% of the total amount is allocated for subawards, while 10% is used for CJC's administrative costs, which is spread across personnel, fringe, travel, and state treasury account fees. So using that 90% rate, the subaward allocations under JAG 22 is $2,037,647. There are 2 subaward allocation spending requirements that all burn JAG and all burn skip federal awards must comply with. The first is the variable pass-through rate, or VPT, which is the percentage of subaward allocations that must be directly passed through to local units of government. This percentage does change every year, and in FY22, Oregon's VPT was 52.7%, which means $1,073,840 is the direct pass-through requirement for this award. And for the second requirement, Oregon must ensure that it's benefiting one or more of the local government entities on BJA's local less than $10,000 list. This is a list which is comprised of localities whose calculated JAG allocation for a specific year fell below the $10,000 threshold. For the purposes of the JAG 22 award, the total of these allocations approximately 310,000, was added to CJC's state allocation with the directive that it either be directly passed through to the localities or indirectly benefit them as a part of a regional initiative, collaboration, or service funded under the FY22 award. So the proposed activity would advance CJC's compliance with the VPT requirement, and several of the municipalities within Washington County that are on the FY22 less than 10K list would benefit. And here are some of the highlights of the proposal that was provided to the commission in the briefing package for this meeting. Washington County Probation and Parole is required to comply with the minimum contact standards that are specified in Oregon Admin Rule 291-078-021 for clients at low, medium, and high supervision levels. Each supervision level requires a certain minimum number of measurable contacts per month. WCCC has also established enhanced field standards beyond these this OAS minimum to increase community-based contacts and home visits. The shift to enhanced community supervision preceded Washington County's change in policy from unarmed to an optional discretionary arming status for its probation and parole officers. Until recently, Washington County was only one of 2 counties in Oregon with an unarmed status for its PMP officers. And WCCC has been working on this transition. So this activity would address gaps in associated standardized safety and emergency response supplies, as well as equipment accountability, which would enable Washington County PMP to increase meaningful officer-client interactions outside of office-based settings. This activity would also provide for officer and public safety in high-risk situations. Washington County Community Corrections is requesting $185,646 for supplies. And as stated earlier, this is a decrease from the original request, which included ammunition and administrative costs. So the revised budget worksheet and narrative excludes these costs and does not include firearms or any BJA prohibited expenses. The supplies are categorized into 4 types. The first is field safety and equipment standardization, which consists of armored vests, belts, and holsters. Medical readiness, supplies such as tourniquets and first aid kits. Communications, including radios, field vehicle computers, and microphones. And finally, equipment storage, accountability, and tracking supplies, mainly comprised of secure lockers and equipment tracking software. This request does not supplant existing funds. The proposed supplies are not currently budgeted, funded, or approved in Washington County Community Corrections adopted budget. The department experienced significant budget reductions in the prior fiscal year, and no new county funding was added for the purposes in the current budget cycle. So with that, I'd like now to open the floor for any questions from the commission on this proposal. And Ankit Babsar and Karen Ledoux of the Probation and Parole Division of WCCC are also on hand to address any technical questions, either about the enhanced standards or PMP's role within the community that I might not be able to answer. So again, I thank you very much for your time. Nice. And I open it up.
Great,
Please.
thank you, Danielle. And why don't you pull down the presentation for the moment? We can always have you bring it back up for the motion language.
Okay.
All right. Discussion.
So I'm trying to. I haven't learned how to do that.
Okay. Well,
Sorry
while
about that.
you're doing that, I'll share a couple of thoughts. I think
Sure.
this is an issue that probably most counties are dealing with: inadequate funding from the grant and aid program. I'm struggling a little bit with this one because I want to make sure that our burn grant dollars are being used in the most efficacious manner possible. And I know that they made the voluntary choice to move to becoming armed and are asking us to pay for armored vests, belts, and holsters. And while that's not guns and ammunition, I personally am struggling with using burn grant dollars for this purpose. So those are my thoughts, but really would love to hear from other commissioners.
This is Freeman. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, sure can.
So I agree that they have made these decisions. However, I think, the idea of having people that are out in the community doing this work, regardless of whether they're armed or not, having extra protections against people trying to do them harm seems like a reasonable use of the money. I don't know how much more in danger they are because they're armed when they're dealing with other people. So I'm glad, they are focused this on protecting the people that work for them. And I know it's gotten pretty dangerous out in the world. So I guess I probably don't have the same issue with trying to make sure that these people that are doing this work are protected.
Thank you. Other thoughts? Yes, Commissioner Herndon.
I would wholeheartedly agree. I think we're dealing with individuals that we may be contacting that at our point in their life that they've made the decision to go a different direction and do more harm or do new harm. And so giving a level of protection to this staff is really important. And just gives them the benefit of time and a little bit of protection to get to a safe place. So I would support it.
Other thoughts?
I'm a little torn on this one. Yeah, I see both sides and not sure I feel like that's where money from the CJC ought to be going. So I don't know. I'm open to hearing other thoughts, but I'm still kind of on the fence.
Commissioner Lehman.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I'm really torn on this. On the one end, I understand it. And on the other end, I'm not sure. Given, what we try to do as a mission, this is what we should be doing with our JAG funds and CJC in general. So I agree with Commissioner Harris that this is just a tough one for me to see, how to go on it. I honestly, I could go either way, and I'm a little torn on it. So I'm hoping that somebody would push me one direction or the other, but it's.
Well, it looks like we have a couple more comments. Commissioner McPherson and then Commissioner Herndon.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think I'm able to help Commissioner Lehman because I feel the same way as you do, Chair, and what you expressed, Commissioner Harris and Commissioner Lehman. And I'm also mindful of the influence of what's happening federally and in this country and how it impacts my thoughts on this request. So
Yeah.
I'll be abstaining for multiple reasons, but I'm sorry I can't help, but I'm definitely conflicted.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Herndon.
Maybe just to look at this and with an alternative perspective, this is about safety and a lot of the resources that law enforcement corrections have leaned into in the past to get access to this safety has been limited based on the federal grant picture. So they don't have opportunity to do that, nor is it a regularly budgeted item. With an agency of 70 that I have, it's a huge expense. But do we put a price on safety? And that's maybe perhaps one way to look at it. It doesn't look like it's going to be an ongoing ask, but safety is paramount, I think, especially when they don't have access to other resources to cover it.
All right, any other thoughts?
Mr. Chair, this is Freeman again. I want to make sure I heard from the staff correctly that this is an eligible expense for the required portion that has to go to local government.
Hi, Danielle Topinski again, and yes, staff has thought about this. It would apply to the VBT requirement. It is an eligible expense under the JAG program, BJA JAG program objectives, and it also would help us to address those local, those municipalities that are on that local less than 10,000 list. And another factor to consider also is this is older JAG money. We're dealing with originally for some of the older JAG funding, half of the subaward allocations were for specialty courts. And then when the legislation increased non-federal funding for that part of our JAG program, it left us with trying to address that a larger amount of funds. And also, this award does expire in September. So I hope I answered your question and maybe gave a little bit extra information as well.
I think that's helpful for all of us. I mean, there's clearly a timing component. We need to get these dollars out the door. I still, maintain I'm struggling with, I have concerns about the way we fund community corrections in this state. And I think the legislature should be listening when the counties do their time studies and funding community corrections accordingly. And that's been a consistent challenge. But, I think probably every county in the state would love to come to us for additional funding to supplement the needs that they have in community corrections. Having said that, I get there's a current need and we need to get these dollars out the door. So any other thoughts?
Every county except for Lynn and Douglas County, we don't
That's
do
right.
parole probation.
Excuse me. Yes, except for the two that
We
opted
handed
out.
that back over.
Yeah, right. Thank you. All right. Commissioner Beach.
Thank you, Chair. As a Community Corrections Director, Chair, I certainly agree with your comments with regard to insufficient funding for the good work that Community Corrections actually does. And in light of Danielle's comments from the CJC in confirming that this meets with the eligibility of the grant, as well as knowing that we need to get these funds out by September, and that this is really a one-time ask based on what the content of it is. I support it moving forward. I certainly understand the other commissioners and their viewpoints as well. But again, clarifying with the CJC that this meets the eligibility requirements, I feel confident in my vote.
Thank you. All right. Any other thoughts? All right, Danielle, do you want to bring back up that motion
Sure.
language that you had?
Absolutely. Bear with me.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll get you to the right slide. Let's get you. So this is the proposed motion language in the original action item. We had three different, you can approve the request for funding, return the request to staff for further clarification or review, or decline the request for funding. Staff recommends that the commission approve an award not to exceed $185,646 to Washington County Community Corrections from FY22 Burn JAG funds for supplies that would support enhanced community supervision and field contact standards.
All right. Is there someone that would like to make a motion?
Chair, this is Commissioner Beach. I would make a motion.
To adopt the language that was just presented?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right. Is there a second?
Chair, this is Commissioner Perosa. I'll second.
All right, we have a motion made by Commissioner Beach, seconded by Commissioner Perosa. Roll call, please, Jenny.
Commissioner Beach,
Yes.
Commissioner Freeman,
Yes.
Commissioner Harnden,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Lehman,
Yes.
Commissioner McPherson,
Abstain.
Commissioner Perosa,
Yes.
and Chair Solomon.
Yes. All
Motion
right,
passes.
that motion carries. Looks like our final item on the agenda today is the BJA Crisis Intervention Program. And I believe we will hear from Kylie.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Give me one moment here while I pull up my slides. It's great to be here this afternoon. Similar to Danielle, this is my first time presenting to you all. So let me know if you can, they are loading now. So just one moment. Let me know when you can see those slides.
They're up.
Perfect. And I know that we are getting close to the end of the hour here, so I will try to get through this in a concise way. But good afternoon, everyone, Chair Solomon and Commissioners. My name is Kylie Russell, staff here at CJC. And today I'm going to be providing an informational overview of the Burn State Crisis Intervention Program, or also known as Burn SCIP, one of the federal grants administered by the CJC. I'll begin today's presentation just with a bit of a background overview of Burn SCIP. Then I'll summarize the work that's been done on the grant thus far, and then I'll share what our efforts are looking like moving us forward. So I'll move on to just starting off with a bit of a background. So in 2022, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act was signed into law to reduce gun violence in our country in order to save lives and keep guns out of dangerous hands. This act amended the already existing Edward Burn JAG statute, which again, we just touched on or received an update on from Danielle, thus creating a new program area focusing on the implementation of state crisis intervention court proceedings and related programs or initiatives. Previously, JAG funds could only be used for criminal justice purposes, so this was a really important change to allow for civil proceedings in the statute. So now with this change, SCIP initiatives can include efforts such as extreme risk protection order programs or ERPO programs that work to keep guns out of the hands of those that pose a threat to themselves or to others, as well as various court-based programs, behavioral health deflection programs, technology improvement, and crisis intervention programs for law enforcement agencies, and more. Again, this is not an exhaustive list, but it just showcases a few examples of how these funds can be used. Both JAG and SCIP are overseen by the Bureau of Justice Assistance Office, or BJA, under the Department of Justice Office of Justice Programs, or OJP, at the federal level. I also did want to quickly note that while JAG and SCIP are closely related, SCIP does not utilize JAG funds. Rather, these are separate appropriated funds. the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act appropriated $150 million per year for 5 years, specifically for new state crisis intervention court proceedings, and again, similar initiatives. So speaking of BJA, our federal agency has outlined several federal requirements for burn skip that must be met by each state administration agency, or SAA. So in this case, us here at CJC. But first, there is a direct local pass-through requirement, which requires 40% of the total award funds available to be passed through to local government, such as prosecutor offices, public defender offices, law enforcement agencies, public health agencies, or court systems. Additionally, there is a less than $10,000 pass-through requirement as well. And I know that Danielle also touched on this, but essentially this means that states must provide additional funds to state courts that provide criminal justice and civil proceeding services as the less than 10,000 jurisdiction within the state. This will be the same jurisdiction eligibility list as JAG, since these two are so closely related. There's also a requirement for states to form a diverse skip advisory board to inform and to guide the states related gun violence reduction programs or initiatives. There's a requirement from BJA that this board must include representatives from law enforcement, community members, the courts and prosecution sector, behavioral health providers, as well as victim service representatives and legal counsel representatives. And lastly, while this is not necessarily a federal requirement, rather just something to be aware of, BJA does expect an audit from the U.S. Department of Justice Office of the Inspector General to review BJA's oversight of burn skip. So with BJA being scrutinized, they'll need states to ensure that their programs are strongly aligned with crisis intervention work rather than prevention-centered work. And this level of scrutiny may just impact BJA's review timeline as things are taking just a little bit longer for them to review and approve, but CJC staff are aware of this and are adjusting accordingly. So now I'll just highlight some of the efforts that have been done in the past related to burn skip here in Oregon. So the CJC applied as the SAA and was able to secure 2 rounds of burn skip funding. The first award was a combined year of funding for fiscal years 2022 and 2023, which provided a little over $3 million in funds. The second was awarded for fiscal year 2024, which provided nearly $1.8 million in funding. When the first round of funds were secured, the CJC went to work forming the Crisis Intervention Advisory Board, ensuring to meet those federal requirements on board representation. And those efforts resulted in a very diverse board with 21 representatives. The advisory board, along with CJC staff, first officially convened in August of 2023, and then roughly met on a monthly basis where a lot of exploratory and foundational research and work was put forth, really just trying to understand and explore what this new grant rollout would look like for us here in Oregon. A solicitation was eventually drafted and received from some feedback for updates from BJA, again, just to ensure that program efforts were aligned with crisis intervention. And the board and CJC staff last officially met in October of 2024. And so this just brings me to address the pause and skip efforts. So BJA underwent some internal restructuring at the federal level at the beginning of 2025, which led to a pause in efforts while CJC staff navigated those changes. So this, coupled with staffing capacity and competing priorities, just led to a full pause on skip efforts here in Oregon. But we are here in front of you today just to share that we're resuming our skip program efforts and have made several steps progressing us forward, which I will touch on next. So now just turning our focus to what's ahead. So between the 2 separate awards that CJC currently has, there is about $4.9 million available for crisis intervention program initiatives. Similar to JAG, 10% of the available funds will go towards administrative costs, with the remaining being available for subrecipients. The CJC recently submitted 2 no-cost extensions with BJA to extend the end periods for both of these grants. So the goal is to combine these 2 awards into one solicitation, combining the total award amounts available and aligning the project performance periods to be the same, thus hopefully just easing the burden for potential applicants and only needing to apply for 1 solicitation rather than 2. So this extension is still being reviewed by BJA, but if it's approved, we'll have a new end date of September 30th, 2028 for both of these awards. Additionally, in the beginning of December, a feedback survey was sent out to past SCIP advisory board members, which we hope to use to guide our next steps in the governance structure of this board going forward. We're hoping to present this information to and our proposed next steps to you all, our commissioners, during the March meeting. So assuming some of these pieces fall into place, we have drafted a tentative timeline for the anticipated solicitation release date and the anticipated activity start date, which I will review on the next slide. So again, we've just drafted a tentative timeline schedule to have Oregon's Burn Skip program up and running. As you can see, we have many steps ahead of us before our anticipated program start date, but focusing on the major milestones and dates highlighted in red, we have a goal to release the Burn Skip solicitation in May of this year. And then after staff at CJC review the applications and conduct the required federal risk assessments for each applicant, we hope to present the applicant selections to you all, our commissioners, in September. After which, these selections will route to BJA for review and approval. And after sub-award contracts are executed, this would result in an anticipated activity start date of January 2027, highlighted in yellow, which would result in a 22 months of program implementation for sub-awards before the goal end date in September 2028, also highlighted in yellow. So looking at the big picture, again, we recognize there are several steps ahead of us before program implementation begins, but we're really excited about the momentum thus far and are certainly looking forward to having these funds become available to folks across the state. So this concludes my informational overview of Burn Skip. Thank you all for your time, and Chair Solomon, I'm happy to answer any questions if you may have any.
Great, perfect timing. We're right up at 3 o'clock. Any quick questions for Kylie? All right, thank you for that presentation. Ryan, anything else you want to share before we finish up?
No commissioners, no updates today. We wanted to use all the time for the business you just conducted. Certainly at our next meeting, we'll be sure to provide you whatever form of legislative update we have, given short session began yesterday.
Indeed. All right. Well, thank you all for your time and for your participation in today's meeting. Look forward to seeing you all next month. Have a good rest of your day.